Welcome to Of Stardust and Earth. Be humble. You're made of earth. Be noble. You're made of the stars. I'm Jen Brown, and this is a safe space for intimate, raw conversations about sexuality, creativity, self-expression, spirituality, really everything that lights my soul on fire. So I invite you to journey with me and the beautiful friends I meet around the globe, diving into provocative explorations about love, life, and being your most radiant self. Welcome, Addie. I'm so excited for this.
Mm-hmm. Me too. Wow. Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. So we met at Embodiment.
Mm-hmm.
You were leading the Contact Beyond Contact,
Mm-hmm.
and I was so struck by your presence and your capacity to not just hold that space with everybody, but also to be like really, really embodied while you were doing it. And I felt like you have such a range that maybe like from just like seeing you, because you're just this gorgeous woman, you wouldn't understand that you have like this really deep, strong depth. And I felt that like from the first like exercises that we were doing there, and I was like, who is this fucking powerhouse? And so yeah, it's really beautiful the way that unfolded for us to start to become friends and to meet. And I feel really excited to get to share you with my people now too and learn more about your story. So thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me. And it's so beautiful to be a witness through your eyes. So thank you so much, sister. One of the things that you brought to my field through our connection is actually finding more of these delightful sweetness that comes in sisterhood that I can really enjoy and experience it with you. And I'm just so honored to be here and to meet you.
Yeah.
And yeah, thanks to the lake.
Oh my gosh. Thank you to the gorgeous lake
for connecting us.
Yeah. And to now our mutual friend Timo, who is this is his place. We love you, Timo.
We love you.
So just even to start for context too, a story about what happened to me since I got here. When I arrived, I went to Solstice Fest. And the second day, I was like just totally in my element, right? And I'm dancing and meeting people and having fun. And the second day, I climb up into the sauna.
Mm-hmm.
And I was there and I was having deep conversations. And I went to reach for the water and I seared my arm. And it was like, it happened in a split second. And it was like, you might be able to see it here. I now have this beautiful, kind of looks like a volcano in the lake, and maybe will become my first tattoo, who knows? It happened instantly. And it's so wild because, I mean, obviously it was really, really painful. But the process that happened for me was first having like so many people that I had just met just shower me with kindness. Like so much kindness to this point that I was just in tears. Because everybody was like doing sound healing on it, finding me balm, finding me aloe.
The power of community.
The power of community. The next day, the really sweet man who actually manages this property, I called him because I was looking online and I was like, oh, this might be bad. And everybody was telling me like, be really careful that it doesn't get infected. It's a large area. And he actually rode with me in a tuk-tuk to the neighboring town. And the doctor there cleaned it, dressed it. Like, I don't really speak Spanish, and both of them don't speak English. And they were just these two really kind, gentle men who were like taking care of me. He didn't charge me. Neither of them did. And they just gave me this huge hug and welcomed me and like gave me some balm for it. And I was just like so overtaken with emotion. And it was interesting because it really started this process for me of like trying to understand, why did I get this burn? And I started really meditating on like how I have multiple burns on this arm and how I've set fire to a lot of things as a child, accidentally, totally accidentally. Like it was never my purpose to do. I also had different moments before you and I met when people like specifically said to me like, you're fire. This happened a few times. So then we had that contact class and you were standing at the fire. And I don't normally even approach people because I can get a little bit shy. And we were standing there and I was like, I want to talk to her. She's so beautiful. And I said to you, like, thank you. And then we started talking about the burn. And you said to me, you looked right at me and you said, the fire, she's calling you to work with her. And it was like this whole paradigm shift. And it was also a moment too where I was like, wow, I really want to learn more about you. And I could feel like this depth inside of you where you've had experience with that. And you also are like very connected to the fire and to the moon and to your dark and your light and your femininity. And the way that you see life isn't through your typical like cause and effect lens. So yeah, so that was kind of a long story, but that's like, I felt in a lot of ways that this has been a gift for me. And one of the biggest gifts has been bringing me to you.
True. I feel like we share that also, as this is our main element that is a fundamental aspect of our being, which is the fire. And the way that fires move us, not just on the dance floor, as in life. And I felt that I could have acknowledged in you at the first moment that we've met is that fire.
Yeah.
That, you know, she's sometimes a bit naughty and she wants to just like create a bit of a story, a bit of a drama.
Yes.
At the same time, she has so much warmth and depth and the ability to cook things and to warm things and to give them the right conditions and the right settings to be birthed into the new evolution. So I feel like as more as I, in my personal journey, connected to the essence of the fire and how the fire is me in many moments, I'm able not just to, like we said, not to burn ourselves.
Yeah.
Literally that was happened.
Yeah, and you just had this happen as well. And where was this?
That was when I was moving through a really emotional process. And it was kind of like few days that I've been taken through this wave of emotions.
Yeah.
So I will completely lose my mind and my ability to stay rigid with the way that I conceptually perceive what I am moving through and just really be able to widen this perspective. So the fire is like kind of like, she's just cutting me off and just allowing me to shift the way of perspective. And so when I'm working more and more with the fire, I'm just listening to her and to her messages and knowing where are my boundaries. And sometimes we tend to go to the edges and to explore and to challenge ourselves, which is beautiful, but sometimes also it's not really much necessary. So then we can create more of these arousements of aliveness in our body because we can cultivate it without taking ourselves into those risk moments. And just by knowing that we are having this life force energy within ourselves. And that's what the fire literally presents, the ability to alchemize.
It's interesting too, because when you say that, it makes me think about that. It is this life force energy that we can burn out, we can burn others, or it can, like you said, warm everything. It can be this like beacon of golden light too. And it's such a power, but yeah, you have to like find your way to be able to dance with it in order to use it to the best for yourself and for others, so it's not destructive.
True, and I feel everything, every object, every aspect, every perception or story in our life has these two dimensions that we can just sit in, whether if it's like my weakness or my power. And not just in the fire, I felt that for me in my personal journey, the biggest awakening was when my mom passed away almost 9 years ago. February 2nd, Yemanja Day, it will be 9 years. And that's so ironic now that I'm thinking about how she represents the water, and she had also the fear of being in the water because she almost drowned when she was young. And that led me to work more with the fire to relax it down as my mom could have done in her life. And then knowing how to just welcome more of the water and just play with those forces, these two forces, which are usually come kind of like against each other, right? As our body and the soul, where they're kind of like pulling to two different directions.
But they're so complementary.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If they know how to work together.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's interesting. So you're Aries.
Yeah.
And I'm Sagittarius in Leo rising. What's your rising too? Do you remember?
Capricorn.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
And my moon is Sag.
And your moon is Sag. So we're like really complementary in that way. And we have a lot of that fire that's just like inherent. And I think that to me too, understanding and seeing that has like really shifted my not having shame about certain ways that I am. And then like you said too, when even you said, she's calling you, like seeing all of these things as for us, even like maybe with the passing of your mom too, like
totally.
Every single thing that is like tragic and challenging, it's part of this beautiful unfolding. That's this mystery that leads us to the next awakening.
Yeah, I could really see that in my life, and my mom is the biggest example for that, how every curse can turn into my blessing. When I allow myself to just sit enough time in this grief and this death process, not just of my mom leaving her body, is more of my own death process of someone that could have see her mom in her wedding day or having her children together with her, and it's not going to happen. So many different like visions had to completely die, you know, dissolved out of my expectations. And that was kind of like a big teaching for me, knowing that as long as I will sit enough with this pain, I will be able to walk through this tunnel, through this dark tunnel. So I'll be able to see that blessings, that this light of consciousness that always come at the end, as we end this cycle. And we come into the completion of knowing that every ending brings a new beginning. And with that deep knowing, the blessings, like kind of like a new perspective, new epic view opened up in our life, and then way more potentials are just unfolding into our fields, that eventually we are able to take that as an advantage. And that's exactly as the fire. If I'm able to alchemize this pain into my pleasure, into my greatest accomplishment or desires or joy, enjoyment, then I kind of like win the game. No, it is all about this game. It's like knowing how to transmute those dense energies, those dense emotions into the most delightful and blissful, ecstatic motions in my body, in my sensations, and with the one that are around me.
Okay, so I'm so curious. So now your focus, maybe you can explain a little bit more too, because in addition to like teaching the CBC, you also do all of this mentorship for women. We just did a moon dance women's ritual and ceremony for the Wolf Fest last night. That was incredibly potent and beautiful, and it had a lot of this with the transmutation and everything. What led you on this path? And like like you said, your mom passed 9 years ago, and her name was Ella, and now that's actually the brand or the umbrella, right, for a lot of the offerings that you do. Where were you on that path at that point? Like, how did you even get into doing all of this women's embodiment?
So first, her name was Leah, and Ella is the interpretation in Hebrew lineage. In the Hebrew language, it says a goddess. If I just turn the letters into that world, which is also Eli's, for me, as I believe, this is a goddess that's been forgotten for so long. And this frequency of the goddess has been asked to be embodied on this earth. And so I really saw my mom's suffer in this life and my mom's story as kind of my compass to understand how to lead myself into this enlightenment, into the ability to see beyond what I was growing up. I mean, my ancestors, my grandmothers and grandfathers came from different countries. They were exiled out of their countries, coming to Israel as this country was just, this nation was just declared as a state. And that's that was caused a lot of suffer to my lineage. Been just feeling not in their homes for a very long time. And all of these fear and survival's frequencies that not just in my family, in my entire culture as I see it, and where I'm coming from, were kind of like took over of the way for us to feel free in ourselves, in our bodies and in our societies, and to really free our talents, our uniqueness in a way that could have really bring that joy into this life and this remembrance that we're here for. And I feel like, wow, I came from this kind of a lineage, and for many years I was kind of like avoiding it.
Yeah.
And
it's really, it's heavy, it's deep. It's like you said, there's a lot of...
And it's still deep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I cannot also resist what is happening at this right moment on my land.
Totally.
At where I came from, and in many different countries and spots on this planet. So I feel like what was my mission is to understand how I can free myself out of this system, this cultural, habitual perception of like, how do we need to live in this life that was really constructed by religion or by different like historical wars and environmental violence that was not really supporting none of the citizens, none of any one of us on the human level. So I was like, okay, how can I take myself out of it? And literally I just left my country in so many different opportunities around my adult life, and I just lived abroad.
You just left.
Yeah. And the living was, at the beginning, was kind of like escape.
Totally.
I need to protect myself and know that it's not what I was meant to do in this life.
Yeah.
But that during my evolution and my spiritual process, I could have really understand how it was my seeds and my nourishment, and it's still. And it's so, I see that as my nurturing compass that I'm able to always go back to and kind of like remember where I'm coming from.
Wow.
Because it's always allow me to ground myself in the humility of where I am. Because it's neither that or that. We're all of those different aspects of life. And I felt that, okay, if I'm able to see beyond where I came from, I would love to help other women to do that as well. And it's not that I do that also just with women. I would love just to mention that, because I do work also with men. But I felt that as my lineage carried a lot of karma of sexual abusive kind of situation in the family and outside of the family, I was like, okay, there's something that is happening that once in every third woman is experience a sexual abuse experience.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there's something that needs to be spoken.
Absolutely.
And we need to like kind of unleash ourselves from that constant fear as women that we are having, even if it's really subtle and we don't really, like, it doesn't really...
Even it's just in the field.
Exactly.
Because, I mean, so one of the exercises that we actually opened with last night at your ceremony was to each write down something that we wanted to let go of, that we hold shame for ourselves, and then also like a collective shame for women. And even if you haven't had those specific experiences, it's just so thick in our collective culture, I feel. So it's, it exists inside of you, whether it's something that you've actually had personal experience with or not. True.
And I mean, there's a different interpretation for what is that kind of a sexual abusive relationship that we have within ourselves and with others. So I don't need to particularly be raped in order to feel that I am abusing myself sexually. And then I start seeing during my teachings and my kind of like practices of tantra practices and sexual healing in the kind of shamanic temple arts spaces, that I could have really unlocked those traumas that I've held in my womb that are related to myself, whether if it's in this life, different past lifetimes, whether if it's belonged to my other women in my family, in the collective field. And I've just tapped into like deeper realizations that it's just managing us. And the more that we will be aware of it, the more we'll be able to feel ourselves and could really like start developing a deeper and an intimate connection with one another that doesn't come from there's any need to fulfill any lack that exists within me. And just to bring that from the subconscious mind into the conscious mind in a safe container, of course, as we all need to feel, especially women in this world, is that what will allow us to kind of like evoke that freedom and to celebrate it together as we just did yesterday.
Yes.
Yeah.
Were you, okay, was there a specific instance or anything that happened in your past that made you want to dive deeper into your own sexuality and freeing that shame? And like you said, about going into Tantra practices. And also, are you different than like your mom and from your family, or is this something that was actually part of your cultural heritage?
Not at all. I felt that I was always kind of like drawn to have sexual interactions with, especially with men, at least in my personal journey.
Yeah.
And I've never felt shame around being with a lot of men, you know? I've never had this kind of a shame. But what I did felt like during this time that I see a lot of sisters around me feeling this kind of protection of not being. I was actually towards the other side, which is like I overgave my body to be validated by a man, to be accepted, to be loved, to be chosen by a man. And my body was always open to have sex. And that was kind of like a bridge to create a connection.
Totally.
With another person. And so whenever I kind of realize it more and more, that it comes to my field that the relationship are going straight away to this, to the bed, you know? Like, okay. And I'm like, what is missing here? Starting asking those questions, and what is missing here? And here, I mean here, in my body. What is missing in my heart that is constantly looking for those connections, for this love and affection that will allow me to feel like I can feel in my body. And then so I realized that I'm not able to feel, that I needed those triggers so then my nervous system could feel this excitement and passion. And that was only by another person. And I'm like, no, I can't be dependent, because one of like my main goals in life is to detach myself from everything that I feel that I have attachment to.
Yeah, and you feel that in you so much. I see that, like, you are such a strong individual, and you have such a wonderful sense of presence in self. And so to be able to make choices from that place instead of like choices based on a need from outside of you, I feels like is really part of your purpose.
I just felt it's always left me missing out of something. Every encounter. And I was like, what is missing then? If I had everything that I wanted and I experienced the most beautiful love story and we had everything that we wanted, what was missing?
It still wasn't like deeply fulfilling.
No.
Wow.
And then I start like just dig in. Like, okay, what is that? What is those stories, those voices of my inner child, or any different archetype that I embodied into my being that I still kind of reject or feel that is not loved or that is not accepted.
That's
I
incredible.
need to do it myself. And the more, again, like with my mother, my mother's death, the more that I sit with this grief, the more that I sit with this pain, I realize that the energy that is held around this story is so dense, and we can carry it for years long. So then we kind of like just repeating the same dynamics in different relationships.
Totally.
And then I kind of like got tired out of this loop, to be honest, and got bored also.
Yeah.
As an Aries or as a fire, I like to entertain myself.
Oh, I feel
I'm
the same
very curious, and I'm adventurous. I'm like, okay, I repeat the same experience over and over again. What is missing?
Totally.
Let's just dive within.
There's got to be more here.
And the more I dive within, I find a greater connection to the divine, to Mother Earth, and to this endless life force energy that I can cultivate in my body without being dependent on any external resources.
Which feels so exciting and liberating, and the ultimate freedom. Were there teachers that you found, or specific like kind of lineages or practices that helped shape you and that unlock that?
Yeah, so basically, as part of my sexual healing journey, there were a few initiations that I did with Ista, if you know about Ista school.
I'm curious about it. I haven't actually done it, but I know about it.
So that's something that was definitely part of my journey, and could have like kind of like awakened me into the group constellation of holding the sexual trauma and these different stories that are held in many different layers of society, because we're coming from different nations and different, again, genders and different archetypes that we play in this game. So it was very interesting to see all of these multidimensional experience of sexual trauma and then bring that into a ceremonial space. And this ceremonial space was inspired and still inspired by ancient teachings, by Egypt temples and Greek temples. And also in my Hebrew lineage, they used to do that as well. So it's kind of a part of my teachings and my practices is also knowing that our ancestors held so many profound codes that if we could just repeat those rituals, whether if it's like the dance around the fire and sing with the moon and connect with those different elements and just letting ourselves to kind of like widen our perspective and listen on a greater scale, so then we will hear those like subtle voices that all of those elements has to share with us for us to awaken to those different perspective, different worldviews. And then as more as I do that and repeating what they used to do back then, I'm more able to see where is my future is taking me. What is this earth is about to be kind of change into. What is the transformation that is required from us to do? And it's a lot, obviously, as we all know, as many of that started this spiritual awakening is like, going within, but within where? What is there that is within? So many different layers of galactical, like emotional and physical and mental
infinity
being.
Of everything inside of us.
Let's just understand this technology on a deeper level, so then we'll be able to just work with those tools that already exist within ourselves to access this information that really just help us to free ourselves from all of those conditions of our society.
You said that about like being able to better understand your future and where you're going. What is it that you foresee as like your purpose and where you want to go with all the practices and things that you're doing?
So now, I mean, every year I can answer it.
It's
completely different.
Well, maybe start with like, what is your current passion and what are your main practices that you're offering?
For sure. So as per for now and where I am in my life, the practices that I really remain as my foundation on a daily basis is breathwork, meditation, movement, and using my voice as an expression, whether if it's a somatic expression, kind of like emotional release, or just allowing every different energetic waves to be expressed through my voice, because the voice carry the codes of the creation. So the more that I use my voice, the more I can heal my different bodies, physical, mental, energetic, and emotional. So if I remain those practices, I'm able basically to clear out of my space, out of my field, whatever that is kind of blocking my consciousness to be open to this animated field. And so those practices for me are very important. And I feel like also is the foundation is really important for us to be built with the concentration, with attention, with consistency, with devotion, so then everything that we can grow on this foundation will be able to be rising in the most easeful way. Because the foundation is the masculine energy. That was we spoke about yesterday, is the line energy.
Please talk about this with the lines and the circles, because oftentimes people say alpha, beta, masculine, feminine, and actually the way that you described it, and even in the dance, it resonated with me the most of anything that I've heard. And it just feels really true in my body. So I would love for you to describe it the way that you did.
Yeah, I will answer that. If I can just take it back to where I was, which is the lines that are able to build this foundation. And out of this foundation, from this foundation, I'm able to receive more of those guidance of where do I need to go. This is the feminine. Like remain open to hold and to increase the capacity to embrace whatever comes into this container, which is my body, my vessel. And so what I am currently led towards is to work with sexual healing, yes, but also kind of like exploring myself. What is it to be? And I know it might sound like, what the fuck? But it's like, what does that mean to be a human, a superhuman?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Ooh.
What does that mean that I'm not relating to anything as if it's mine, but still really connected to everything as it's a part of me? And knowing this dance exactly as on the dance floor. And I will answer your question, because knowing how to do that is really defining all of the things that we do by those different energies, the line and the circles. And these teachings actually are referred by my teacher, Mark Gaffney. And he's incredible. And the way he described it is very beautiful, because when we are talking about masculine and feminine, we already defined it as kind of like two different figures that related to the physical.
Totally. We get a specific image in our minds, and then we also relate ourselves to that. Okay, so I'm the feminine, you're the masculine, like whatever. And then it kind of pigeonholes you as well, right?
And yes, you are in a beautiful woman's body, and you came to embody like a certain frequency and energy, and yet you have them both. And by Mark Gaffney, which I feel very resonate with, is that the way that in this evolution where we're living now on this earth, if we know how to integrate those two energies, the lines and the circles, into this third version, third form of humankind, then we are the superhumans. And so it's not about if I'm in a woman's body or in a man's body. It's not about that. It's how can I cultivate these two energies and finding this divine union from that place within myself. And so everything outside of me will just reflect the same.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah.
That was something I really appreciate too when you're teaching the contact beyond contact, is to explore that in a physical way through dance. So that you kind of get a better sense too of the line energy versus the circle energy. Like what it feels like when you're dancing, and when you are direct, and when you have a goal, and when you're actually, like I was dancing with you and I was like, wow, you're such a good lead, you know, because you have decisiveness and you were able to be in your own power that way. And to me, that really represents that line energy. Whereas then the circle and the receptive, it's like being open to the flow and being attuned and not seeking. Really, like I would even do this a lot of times on the dance floor, where whenever I do find myself in that energy of like wanting, I just come back into my own essence, and I close my eyes, and I'm just with myself. And then whatever it was that I kind of maybe wanted to experience usually just appears, you know, right? And which is like the feminine. It's that circle, it's that receptive.
It's magnet.
It's a magnet.
Just send those signals to the universe, and when it's aligned, and if it's aligned, it will just unfold. Yeah. And you trust, because you know it's there for you. And it feels so much better to be direct in one of those energies as well, right? Rather than just kind of like all over the place, and you're a little bit confused, and you're kind of seeking, but you're like not wanting to. So either like claim what you want, or to be like, surprise me. Oh, I love that. Yes. And they're both beautiful. They're both beautiful. There's time for everything. In the Buddhism, it says, the Zen Buddhism studying, and also in the Kabbalah, in our Hebrew lineage, there's time for everything. There's time and for knowing everything. How to embody like different energies, different frequencies in any given time where you're led to just feel that now. Or when you're led to just do that now. And you know deeply in you, when we are really connected to this intuitive voice within ourselves, it's not the monkey mind, it's the intuitive pulse of what is my desire to do now? What is my passion to do now? Yeah. And that passion that doesn't come from a place of, oh, I'm bored and I just want to get like a piece of chocolate so I can like entertain myself or scroll the Instagram. It's not. It's about like, what is that is exciting my unique self
Yes.
that I know that I'm going to explore, or maybe even discover a new talent, a new art, a new piece of song or poet or even photo shoot.
Yeah. Which was another like incredible thing that just flowed and unfolded, because after we talked and we met, then I had this opportunity come to create content here. And the first person that came to my mind when she was describing to me what she wanted, the woman that I was creating for, I was like, it's Dee Dee.
It's me.
It's you. And what was really special too was she had said to me, like, Jen, you're perfect for it. Like, I want you to be the model as well. And then luckily my friend Megan, who was here, who's a phenomenal photographer, was able to shoot me, and then I was able to shoot you.
Yes.
And I think that it's interesting too that she really wanted me to model, and then as soon as I showed her you, she was like, yes, because there is this like this energy that we both share, right? That's similar.
Yeah.
So that was like so much fun. That's my favorite. I love that you got to experience me in my passion,
in your passion,
and then I get to experience you in your passion.
Much. I feel this is how you can really discover like the heart,
you know who we are.
Of, who you are.
I feel that
when you are in your element,
100%.
And just giving yourself with no mask and just super like open and vulnerable to share is co-creation from a place of like, I know what is my gift, and still I'm open like to see what are you gonna contribute to my gift. You know? And this is like where I meet like friendships in the most ideal way.
It's interesting too, because like I really feel that as a photographer, the work that I do is similar to the work that you do with people as well. And I work with both men and women too. And I love doing shoots that help people to uncover and reclaim parts of themselves and to see themselves as like whole beautiful beings, and for me to be able to reflect back to them the beauty that I see, and for them to not have shame to be in their skin and to see that it is perfect. You know?
It's so beautiful what you just said, because I feel like we need more of that.
Yeah.
You know, you have so many self-sabotaging patterns, tendencies that we all hold on a different kind of levels, and then we kind of just really want to go big, but we don't know why we're not going bigger than where we are in this current moment. And because of those voices, because of those perceptions of what we are able to become,
absolutely,
and what we meant to become. And I feel like if we just project that acknowledgement of beauty,
totally,
and just letting everyone know that they're welcome as they are, without the need to be anything else, and who they are in this moment, there's so much spacious field that like opened up for them to discover, okay, what else can I be then?
Yes.
Because I'm already whole. I'm okay. I'm perfect as I am.
Totally.
I don't need to start running away to look for those missing parts in me to other people. I have it all. Now what can I discover or just practice or train myself to do more?
Yeah.
You know?
I have been, I think I told you, I'm like obsessed with the gene keys. Everybody knows this. And the key that I contemplate the most, because I have 3 of them in my chart, which is the 59. And it's like, if you have more than one, it's also like kind of note, right? It's significant. So to have 3 of the same key, it's like, yes, this is a theme in my life. And it's the shadow of dishonesty to the gift of intimacy. And I really think about that all the time, how it's not possible to have intimacy with somebody else if you don't have honesty and intimacy with yourself, you know? And so for me, like the reflection of the shoots and seeing each other and then doing like the women's circle like we did last night and all of these things are a way to deepen that honesty and intimacy inside, so that then when you do connect with another human, you're coming from like such a, you don't have all of these veils and barriers, you know?
The veils are thinner, and then you're able to see the others reflecting you, who you are, as this oneness that we're talking about, that we always like seek to reach in some point. And it's beautiful what you say, because again, there is no like right or wrong, right? There's no like I need to be that or that. So as more as we detach ourselves from these kind of limitations of those, there are 2 ways to be, either that or that. It's also kind of like I need to be the line or the circle. It's
totally.
Like, can you be something that have yet to be discovered?
Ooh.
like something new, completely new, that it's not defined by any certain frame or a box. And like what you're talking about, intimacy, it's something that I realized also most of my life, that I cannot be intimate with people. I can't look at other people's eyes for such a long time because it feels so much painful in my body, literally in my nervous system.
Yeah.
I feel seen and exposed and in such a raw way that they can see all my flaws and my demons.
Totally.
And I don't want them to see that. And I returned back to myself, back to my home. What are those demons? What are those flaws that, again, yet to receive that love that we're asking for years from myself, to show up for them as they're part of me. So intimacy for me is like the ability for me to be wounded, is the ability for me to feel that wounds that I was always rejecting in my life as a part of like my greatest beauty.
Wow.
As the blessings that I've received, so I can meet myself back in this love, in this love essence of who I really am, this eternal love, unconditional love that we can just share with one another and with all other species that are around us.
Yeah.
So intimacy, it's a real thing. I still feel a lot of a struggle, to be honest.
Yeah.
Even in my personal journey, also in front of my partner sometimes.
Yeah, especially in front of your partner.
Intimate is like, whew, you're gonna see all the ugly parts in me. But there's something that, as more as I find more courage, and that's what we spoke about also yesterday, as more as courage is on the table, and in courage there is rage, so allowing myself to bring this wild part in me, this savage woman that knows that she's gonna fiercely break through everything, every challenge that God will ever give her, then there is no question if I will make it or not. It's just like how and when.
Yep.
And then I'm just keep on moving, keep on walking. And those ancient traditions, whether if it's like the Brazilian in the Amazonia, where I learned that from them, from the tribes, and from where I came from my ancestors that walked like days and years in the deserts to get to their homes, then I'm able to do it. I can't complain.
And
like, look where
sometimes
we're
it
living.
is a whole journey and an adventure, and it takes time.
Yeah.
It's not like you just decide, like, I'm going to have the courage. And exactly.
Give it to me.
I love all my demons. Okay, I want to touch on this too, because you were talking about Lilith last night.
Ooh.
And I love...
Let's call her.
Yes, please.
We love you, Lily.
And you have a really deep relationship with her.
Oh.
And I feel that I'm just still very new, like learning about the archetypes of the goddesses and of like in the Bible and all of these figures too that are so powerful. So maybe if you want to tell me more about who she is and what she means in your life. First,
I will just mention that all of those figures are literally qualities that are in us. And they are present in different frequencies that we can just embody within ourselves in order for us to cultivate that wholeness, right? That we can be all of it. So Lilith for me is representing these lost parts that I could have never like understand on a deeper level why I'm different. Why I'm so different. Why I'm so different than my sisters? Why I'm so different than the other girls in my school? Why I'm so different than my society? And Lilith is representing this woman that said no for being a secondary to a man. That woman that said, no, I'm not going to compromise myself. I will not mold myself into some frame that you want me to be. No, I'm gonna be who I am, and I will not just be who I am, I'll free myself, and I'm gonna be even a little bit with this rebel, energy, this attitude is like I'm gonna fight against it. And so also she needed to relax her anger
really
and rage because she was like very, very hard on God basically when she hasn't felt welcome. And when she didn't want to be with Adam in these kind of like settings, she left Garden of Eden. And then when the angels sent by God came to her and asked her to return back, she was like, no, I'm not coming back. I already made love with the demons. Like, why would I be with Adam? It's like, and this thing, as soon as I heard that, and I shared it also yesterday, at the moment that I heard this sentence that she literally said, it allowed me, first of all, to understand that she's not appeared in the Bible, right? Okay, it's not in the official Bible.
Yep.
Therefore,
so much editing is happening.
Exactly. The patriarchal world have changed the old order for us to believe that we need to act on certain things in a certain way. But underneath that, there's so much to learn and so much to know. And so when I go by those writings with those missing parts, I understand these missing parts in me. And Lilith represented me this way that I was walking through. Like how I'm going to go against what I've learned so far, because I'm so curious and want to explore beyond what I've already known.
Yeah.
And it brought me to some maybe situations that kind of felt regretful in that moment after I end them.
Yeah.
But they were so needed for me to understand this dark Lilith in me, this woman that knows that she is capable for way more than just being a secondary to a man and just, be a housewife and there's nothing wrong with that as long as I choose it consciously.
Yeah.
But that was not my path. And so I was, okay, what there is there in my path to be discovered. And dark Lilith really brings that dark aspect. And I would love to say dark is not bad.
Yeah.
And
it's like the moon.
It's not negative.
The night.
It's the night.
Yeah.
It's the emptiness where all manifestation can be manifested. Once that we plant the seed consciously in this dark space, then we allowed to those changes, those transformations, and that's what dark Lilith is bringing. Kind of we're gonna break this order that now exists on Earth to create something that is more relevant and more resonant with where we are today.
Absolutely.
With those kind of codes that we already carry now in our bodies, and knowing how to cultivate a better relationship, not just as an honoring to the woman, as an honoring to the feminine that is exist in men and women, in both, as an honoring to Mother Earth. And I feel that's what dark Lilith is screaming for. Is look at me, see me. Is another aspect of Mother, of the great feminine creature. That is, she's just providing everything. She has everything to nurture her children with, but they kind of don't see it and they don't appreciate it. And dark Lilith, she's you're gonna see me. And therefore we see the fires and we see other climate changes or nature disorders, because she's calling us for this attention and to be intentionally praying and working with her and for her, because we are from her. So that's why I work so much with also dark Lilith, is knowing that, okay, I came to embody this frequency and to kind of waken either myself and other people around me just to that deeper understanding where we're here, why we're here, and where we're coming from, where this body came from.
I resonate with that so much. I love it. And I feel too, when you are somebody that you've known from a young age, that there was something inside of you that was maybe a little different than the people around you, having a role model like that too, that you understand the world through, can really help you to see that what you have is a gift and you're designed that way for a beautiful purpose. And it's not something that is shameful or wrong with you. It's what you're meant to bring and to share, because you have a deeper connection and understanding to that energy, and that exists in everybody. I mean, that was something that was really beautiful to see last night. Is it was a room filled with all different kinds of women, right? A real big variety.
Right.
It was wonderful.
Yeah.
And yet that there are threads that run through all of us, and different balances of like the lines and the circle energy and the dark and the light and everything else. But we all have this unique combination that is meant to be shared in our voice. And even the way that you were encouraging us to express our voice and through our bodies. And I think then having those examples really helps us to be able to claim who it is that we know we are inside, instead of trying to fit into any sort of societal mold or box anymore. I'm so with you. Like that is just, if I think about like what is my purpose in life, I feel like my number one purpose is to continue to like really dive in and be honest with myself the way that you're talking about, so that then I can show up as my most true self in the world. And even when it's really uncomfortable, then maybe be an example of that for other people who are scared to show up as themselves, you know? Whatever that looks like. And even if it's changing, like you said, even from one year to the next, and you have other things that are inspiring and that you feel like you're supposed to pursue, which is so fun. It's part of the adventure. It's part of the story unfolding, right? True. But ultimately, like the base of it is to be as real and true, and then to be as loving, like loving to yourself and loving to...
Through the whole process.
Through the whole process.
Because at the end of the day and the end of the life, what is matter the most is how much love we could have show up for ourselves and to others. And and I would love just to share with what you said about the shame that sometimes we carry around is understanding that we're different. And they're like, I'm talking to those, whether women or men, that feel so different in their communities, in their homes, and in their families, just knowing that, first of all, they're never alone. They're never alone, and we will never be alone. And the tribe is there, and the people that awaken to these new earth frequencies are there to be connected and to weave together and to co-create and to remember together. So just have more compassion to the journey, because there are some moments that it can feel so scary and so uncertain of where am I going from this point, and just knowing that just keep going.
Just keep going.
Keep going.
Keep going.
You're gonna find what you've meant to be found in you eventually, but through these walking. And that's something that I heard in a podcast of the Emerald that I really loved and was inspired by, is the way that we are walking on this earth is for us to infuse the cultures, to infuse the stories, the memories, the codes. And so keep travel, keep moving this world, because the way that what we do now is that we exchange this information, this vibrational field, and allowing ourselves to remember through one another of our power, of what we're capable of doing here and what we're here for. And so we find the support in each other. And the more that we're connecting and reminding that to each other, we feel stronger. And it's something that I learned also from the tribe that I was with in the Amazon, that it's very easy to bend one finger and maybe even to break it, but a whole fist, when it's so strong and held by one another, it's so hard to be broken, right? So how can we just show up for each other, knowing that we are all in this journey? I'm not better than you, and you don't need to be perfect, because it's such an illusion. And we're just here to play in this game, remind each other of how together we're so powerful than just be individuals. So if we can find this beautiful melody that we can be co-created by different instruments that comes from Israel and from the state and from Russia and from Brazil, and just bringing all of those codes together into like a awakened tribe, that's what the earth wants. And I feel like that's what we're here to share. And the bridge, it doesn't really matter. Through photos, through workshops, ceremonies, dance, they're all beautiful practices. But it's the frequency that we embody within ourselves. That's what we allow other people to remember, of the frequency that they have within. Right? So...
wow.
Let's just embody it. Let's just embody it.
You're so wise.
I love you.
I love you.
I love you.